Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? I hope you're doing very, very well. I hope you're all in the mood for another remake. Well, we say remake, reboot, reimagining, whatever. It's taking an old franchise, an old movie, an old character and giving them a new shot in the arm and realising, yes, there could be money made out of this with modern audiences. But this one I'm kind of very interested in. Yes, it's Blacula. Oh yeah. Right after Richard Roundtree made Shaft and ushered in, the whole blaxploitation thing of the early 70s, and many great movies and characters and actors came out of all of that. Inevitably, the horror angle would come in. Only a couple of years before, you'd had Bob Keljan with Robert Quarry in Count Yorga Vampire. Awesome movie. And it's great sequel as well. Return of Count Yorga. And by the way, if anyone knows who owns the rights to those movies, please drop me a line because I want to remake them. Yes. Count Yorga. Kilt-Man. No, I do. I love those movies. Really good. And certainly because of Richard Roundtree and the success of Shaft, and then the sequel to Shaft as well, and the whole idea of vampires, mythical, sort of literary, gothic 18th, 17th century creatures relocated to modern day 70s in a thriving metropolis city, LA. They thought, well, hang on a minute, we can combine the genres here. We can do a blaxploitation horror movie. Instead of Dracula, we'll have Blacula. William Marshall, towering 6'4", bass baritone voice, so much commanding presence and really good performance as well, and terrifying, admirable, honourable, but also a real badass at the same time. You love him, you loathe him, you fear him, but you admire him, and he dominates, the two movies because Blacula itself was so successful it spawned a sequel of its own called Scream, Blacula Scream, and which all brought a lot of voodoo into it, and also Pam Grier. So they're both great movies, and interestingly, Bob Keljan did the first, the two Yorga movies, and then he came in and did the sequel to Blacula as well. Now, where did Blacula come from? Well, Blacula was initially Prince Mamawalde, an African prince who comes to see Dracula, yes, the real Dracula, to plead with him, negotiate with him. Can you help me stop the slave trade, save my people, my culture, my heritage? And but negotiations break down and things go very, very sadly awry, and Dracula vampirizes Mamawalde and entombs him for all of eternity as well. Double whammy or what? But then we move to present day of early 70s LA, and Blacula, as he comes to be known, is now reawakened and forms a horde of his own undead army and puts the bite on LA good style. Cue lots of scary sequences, a little smattering of gore, a really hip, groovy R&B soundtrack, and just some great set pieces and a really interesting take on Dracula, a lost love reincarnated, because it does play on the original Bram Stoker, the original ideas that were inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula, the reincarnations, lost love, and all this sort of destiny thing. That's all there, but with a lot more action going on in it as well. And it was hip, cool, exciting, frightening, awesome. So, as I say, it spawned a sequel, Scream, Blacula Scream, and at the end of that, we're kind of like, well, is he taken down by a voodoo doll? Is he? Fuck. They're never out for the count. This guy's a prince anyway, so he's way above being just a simple count. But, so we move forward to modern day times, and Blacula is going to get another shot at the title. And what they're saying is it's not going to be a remake, although it's going to have to be in some ways. They're going to pick up where Blacula Scream leaves off. So in other words, but it's going to be set in the modern times, in a big, sprawling metropolitan city in a post-coronavirus pandemic, so after all this, so in a whole new sort of sensibility, perhaps. There's no plot so far that I've read about this. There's no cast list either, but this is going ahead, and I'll tell you who's doing it as well. I'll have to refer to my notes. MGM, Bron, and the Hidden Empire Film Group, produced by producer and director Dion Taylor and his wife Roxanne Event Taylor. Now, I don't really know these people. Some of you out there are going like, oh yeah, that's going to be great. But I know some of you are going to be like, oh, no way. Because, and this is what this whole thing is going to hinge upon. What they've done in the past, they've done a film called The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2, and a whole TV show called Be Woke, and one called Supremacy as well. And so what you've got to take into account is that way back in the 70s, there was no woke, but racial tensions ran high, inequality was absolutely rife. But America at that time, not just America, the Western world was exceptionally conservative and very, very right-wing, and very, very, unaccommodating, very unequal. So you didn't have many black superstars, you didn't have many black people appearing on TV screens and in commercials and stuff like that. And everything they were there, it was cliched. So you've got to remember, back in those days when you had Richard Roundtree as the coolest, hippest detective in town, anywhere in fact, no matter what the colour of his skin was, but he happened to be black and he was so, so cool and hip. The cultural zeitgeist was begun, and so drive-in cinemas, ordinary movie chains, they were packed out, and but the thing is, not only were black audiences wowed and adoring of this new cultural icon, everybody was. Shaft won over everybody. Blacula won over everybody as well, because it took in the whole genre of horror. So the horror fans who went, oh, I don't like action movies or detective movies or thrillers, but all of a sudden you got a black horror superstar as well, literally overnight. Awesome. So that a lot of people who went on to make movies themselves, a lot of black people who made movies, they were inspired by the likes of Shaft, obviously, and by Blacula, and because these crossed all the boundaries. So it forged ahead a whole new genre, blaxploitation, and obviously the last ensuing decades they've been trying to reinvigorate black movies, and of course, but the one of recent times which really comes to mind as working cross-culturally but celebrating African American culture and heritage is Black Panther. Of course, Marvel took that on board, and yeah, Marvel and Disney are shoehorning in ethnic minorities all together in such a pandering fashion that it does feel like you're gagging on this whole woke thing. Of course, I've said it many times, there's nothing wrong with that. The story, its story counts. Give everybody, if you're the right person for the job, you get the job. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is, you get the job. If the part calls for someone, it doesn't matter what colour you are, unless it's specifically written for someone who is of a particular racial denomination, then obviously you get to, and I got no problem with that. Don't be making James Bond black or a woman. Don't mess with what's already been and is kind of set in stone. It's when people are trying to reinvent the wheel and say, no, the time's come for a change. No, create your own. Don't touch what's gone before and works. Bond, I know I've gone off on a slight tangent, but it's all connected. Bond has moved with the times, but the thing is you can't move Bond too much, otherwise he's not James Bond anymore. So he's got to be a man, he's got to be a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, which is the perfect terminology, which he was ever, labelled as. Because that's what he is. But you can't mess with that too much. You can move with the political climate somewhat, but you've got to keep him within the certain parameters. Otherwise, he's not the same guy at all. And it's a bait and switch. You've got to see a James Bond film and well, that's not James Bond. Who the hell's that guy? Anyway, but so Black Panther came out and everyone was swept up by it. I don't know anyone that doesn't like that movie. It's a fantastic film, and it doesn't absolutely grab you by the throat and ram, woke. It's black culture. You must learn. Black Lives Matter. Of course they do. But the film didn't pander to that. Oh, I hate using the word. You know I do. I've said it in other videos. Oh, I hate that people use the word narrative. It didn't follow that. I know some people are going to argue that it did, but they told the story of Black Panther, who was all in the comic books to begin with, and and it totally worked. Everybody embraced it. Wonderful, wonderful movie. And with a bit of luck, I'm hoping that a remake of Blacula could go along the same sort of route, where we are not trying to stir the pot in any volatile fashion for political behind-the-scenes purposes. Tell the story of Blacula, And what they're saying is it's gonna pick up where the Blacula left off. Now, he was kind of ambiguously killed by voodoo doll and ritual purposes, but we knew that wasn't the end of him. So what's he been doing since then, back in the 70s to now? Where's he been? Has he been creating an army of his own? Is he behind the entire coronavirus thing? It's an idea, because what was Christopher Lee doing as Count Dracula in Satanic Rites of Dracula? He's fashioning a bubonic plague weapon, So there could be that. I am just spitballing here, folks, because I've got no idea. There's no other script or story elements, plotting that's been given away. No cast names at all. But I've got reasonably high hopes of this, so long as it's not used, as I say, for any kind of sledgehammering of political agenda. Just tell that story again. Bring that character back. Use all of the cultural heritage at your disposal, as they did back in the early 70s. The thing about nowadays is, with all these attitudes and trying to change society, you've got more means of doing it. You've got more means of stoking the fire because of all the multi-million bloody media platforms, TV, radio, papers, magazines, social media, YouTube, internet, everything, movies, TV shows, everything is now channeled towards that. We know it's inescapable, and that's not a wrong thing. If you've got any idea, any movement, use every means at your disposal. What my point is when studios and producers do it on purpose and feel absolutely, totally obliged to do this. And if you're not behind it, then you're not one of us. Shut up. First and foremost, show us a fucking good story. Give us some good characters, some exciting set pieces. Make a film which we all go, what? Do you know what? I don't care what colour anybody was. That was a fucking great movie. I love that. But this movement, this stance can be very eroding of creativity. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen here. I've got every hope that these guys are going to get this right and really pay respect, because the guy, what's his name, Dean Taylor, he's born in Gary, Indiana, and William Marshall is from Gary, Indiana, and he says, oh my God, this is a guy that blew my mind. The fact he was from the same town as me. Oh wow. I totally embrace that. I can see he's moved. He says Blacula was one of the biggest cultural elements when I was growing up. This was what changed society for a lot of black people. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think Shaft had more of an effect, and what followed, Blacula just took in another genre and added to it, and just added impetus to what was a gathering sort of momentum. And I totally embrace that. But I love vampires, and vampires relocated, make them modern day. It's been done many, many times. And in fact, you've had Blade, a modern day vampire. He's a good vampire fighting bad vampires, and he's black, and it worked. Ultra cool. 3 movies out of that. Great big comic book franchise, but 3 movies out of it. Blade 1, awesome. Blade 2, friggin' awesome. Blade Trinity, Jesus, I don't know about that one. That was a misstep, that one, really. But I love the character of Blade. And you've had Eddie Murphy was in what was it, A Vampire in Brooklyn. But what was that? Was that a comedy? Do you know what? I saw it once and I was like, I really don't remember. I just remember it being a comedy. Someone's going to go, no, there was lots of brutality and violence, and it had an agenda as well. Well, it probably did. Eddie Murphy was there, like, you know. But I don't know too much about it. But you've had like Near Dark, Lost Boys. Vampires certainly can exist in the modern day climate and society. And I think what's interesting about this is that you're going to bring back a towering, domineering character like Count Yorga, charisma, and sort of a bloodlust and a sexual lust existed too, and they combined it very well. Because don't forget, Count Yorga movies were initially meant to be soft porn as well, but Robert Quarry, the great Robert Quarry, said that no, if you want me to play him, you know, it's going to be a straight horror movie, and and they are great. I'm going to have to cover the Count Yorga movies and the 2 Blacula movies that we've got so far. Because don't worry, I'll take over the reins for Count Yorga, and I'll reboot that one. God, could you imagine it? It would be hardcore porn, and I'd be in every single scene. But Kilt-Man, you're just producing this. I know. I'm just casting. Oh God, Weinstein. Oh dear. No, I'm looking forward to this. I hope this actually does come to fruition. I think it will. I genuinely think it will. But I don't want that impetus. And looking at what else they've done, you know, these other shows they've done, and all respect to them, because I've not seen these things. I don't know. It could be brilliant, but I'd like to see this without a forceful agenda. You can slip things under the net, you know, under the cape, and you know, get away with it, and it will still infiltrate the audience's mind and will show them things in a new light. You can do that. You don't have to sledgehammer it home. Just tell a good horror story. That's what Blacula is. It joined the blaxploitation movement, but it just told a bloody good horror story as well, relocating the traditional vampire trappings into a modern day LA. Terrific stuff with gusto and vigour. Yeah, as I say, a little bit of gore, not much, but action, and it was thrilling. I'm not playing any of the music from Blacula or even Count Yorga. I'm playing the music from Robert Cobert for Dan Curtis's Dracula, the TV version, which is fantastic as well. And but I haven't got the soundtracks to any the Count Yorgas or the Blacula movies. In fact, the first Blacula movie, it's mainly songs anyway, to be honest with you. And I don't tend to do that, but to play that. But yeah, so guys, let me know what you think. I'm just trying to think, was there anything else I wrote in my notes here? No, not really. Because we don't know any more about it really. It cropped up, I just saw information about this, and I know there was a link to some blurb saying we're doing this, we're going ahead with this. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'm behind that. Let's do this, and let's make it. And don't water it down either. That's the other thing. Don't water it down. If you're going to move with the times, make it bloodthirsty. Yeah, let's do that. Because back in the day, there's a hell of a body count in these 2 movies, the Blacula films. He takes out a lot of people, and his vampire hordes, are menacing. So, don't neglect that. Bring that in. And if you want to bring voodoo in as well, so much the better. I love a bit of voodoo. Now go do that voodoo that you do so well. So, folks, let me know what you think. Blacula. Is this going to work? Are we going to bring this forward correctly? Oh, I've just noticed over my shoulder, Hammer also reached across the world and embraced Asian martial arts with The Legend of the 7 Golden Vampires, which I've covered quite extensively. Go back, there's videos there on the film and on this mask by my great friend Eric Lubati. So, folks, The precedent for this kind of movie was done a long time ago. As I say, my concerns are with the whole current climate of angst and racial tension, that this movie could be shanghaied and used as a figurehead for political means. That might not stop it being a good film, but I think it would inhibit the creativity of it in the first place. Let that kind of material filter through the storytelling and the acting and just the movie itself. Let that permeate the audience's minds, but don't sledgehammer it, because you could derail the whole thing and alienate a lot of potential fans. So just make the best movie you can and tell a good version of Blacula. Carry it on, carry it on, because, and I think, the whole coronavirus thing, why are they using that? It's only when I said before, like, about Satanic Rites of Dracula, that he's trying to mass-produce bubonic plague to wipe out most of mankind. Could be. Dan Taylor, if you're listening, if you're watching this and you haven't written a script yet, get on it. Oh, Mika Rainham is co-writing the script. I don't know who that is, but Dan, Mika, take it on board. You heard it here first. Folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man, and yeah, I'm looking forward to any new interpretation of Blacula. Just bring it on, but make it full-blooded, make it nasty, make it exciting, and make it a horror film. And you can keep some humour in it too, because there's definitely, Bloody Mary, there was definitely a few little tongue-in-cheek little jokes, little sense of humour in the original movies. Anyway, folks, I have been always shall be Kilt-Man, and I hope you all keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all in the flap of a bat wing. That pesky stop button. I'm now beginning to wonder, is it my thumb that doesn't work? Is it the thumb that's not doing it right? What's wrong with you? Laters.